We're going to, like I said, reconnect with each other, but also to our own essence, our souls. Because this might seem like a time when there's a lot of disruption in the world and our own inner selves with things coming up that we have to deal with and our healing. But it's time for a recalibration. Um, I like to think of it as a celebration, and it's a celebration of you and your liberation through contemplation and actualization. So we're going to go into our blocks that may be keeping us from our spiritual expansion and growth. But before we get into like a class about it, let's talk. I want to hear from you. What type of things, first of all, what do you see as a blockage and what are you experiencing that you feel maybe something's holding you from being fully you? And grief is a tricky thing to deal with because first of all, we want to feel it. We want to allow our hearts to feel it and work through it. There's many stages to that, many emotions to it. Grief, I think it's touched all of us at some point in our life or another. The loss of a loved one or even loss of pieces and parts of self. Now, what we're going through the ascension process, let's also consider that. What pieces and parts of ourselves are we leaving behind? Some are good things to leave behind, and other things are things that we didn't want to leave behind, such as relationships. So the heart is something that we will definitely deal with today. And I guess the biggest thing, Tara, to do is what am I learning from this? What can I learn from this? And what is it teaching me as a soul? And I would guess that most of our grief and feelings, especially the heavy, dark feelings, are all leading us inward to self-love, to self-acceptance, and to the divine, and for the expansion of the soul. About it, it's our ego, and we're going to talk a lot about the ego this morning. But the ego is set itself in judgment. Number one, it's a good thing because we have to keep ourselves safe. So we judge, is it good to walk across the street right now? Is it safe to go out in the sun right now, knowing my skin? It's built into us on purpose. So then it kind of runs the gamut though to the outside world, things that upset us based on our programming, our beliefs, our need for feeling safe in this world and feel like we matter. So I guess a good thing for judgment might be to say, can I do anything about this? And if the answer is no, then what am I to do with myself? And maybe that is just to turn everything around and pray that things go for the safety and for the good of all. Hmm? Yeah. And that's for all of us, including myself. If I am in judgment of something, if I am feel too small to change something in government, politics, the city, whatever, the world, war, then my job is to do what the divine self would do, and that's to pray and offer love from the heart, supporting, sustaining goodness to all. It's to me right now, as far as where we are on our spiritual journeys, that's the number one alchemical thing that we can do to bring change. Mm. We're going to talk about that today too, is comparing ourselves to others and creative blocks. Of course, that's definitely a part of block. It's the full expression of you. So, truly what we want to allow, of course, is our creativity to come up and forth. And I can identify with that. Sometimes channeling is just, flowing days and days and days. And then there's a judgment or something that comes in of myself. Is this good enough? Is this what people want to hear? Is this what is really coming, there. But I believe what you're talking about basically is voices from the past of things people told us that we're capable of or not capable of. And those voices can play like a record in the background, even in the subconscious. Even today, when I was loading the dishwasher, it's like a voice came up from the past about how I loaded the dishwasher, and it was like, isn't that interesting that that voice from the past came forward? And it's like, is there really a good or bad way to load a dishwasher? Hey, so I know what you're talking about, those voices that can come up, but then that's a really good opportunity to stop, put your hand on your heart and say, you know what? All is well, and I'm doing great, and I am great. Whatever we can do to talk to ourselves, for sure. The change is one of the biggest things to deal with, for sure. And change is the only constant, they say. But when the changes are big and heart-wrenching, then it really can trip us up inside, right? So this is why the guides have planned some wonderful, compassionate clearings here today for all of us. So, because sometimes we feel like that we have to always do something, we have to fix something, which is usually ourselves. All of those thoughts, all of our judgments of self and others, grief and deep emotions like that are a little bit different. But to add on to what you were saying about just sitting back, there's a thing that I have sitting down inside. It's on my YouTube channel. You can watch all my videos on YouTube for free. One of them is talking about sitting down inside to just take your consciousness out of that monkey mind and allow it to come down into the body and just be. Because when we really take then the next step that I was going to take this to is the fact that everything outside of us is a mirror to us anyway, isn't it? That's a mirror. It's like, am I really at fault for that? Why did they said that? So there's a balance there too, is realizing, that okay, if I'm gonna sit down inside, I'm just gonna relax and I'll just observe and say, isn't that interesting? We don't have to fix or worry over concern about anything or change anything or try to control anything. And that's where the problem comes in, I think, is that we're trying to control. Yes. Yeah, we want things to be different. Why? To serve us? See, so we're very complex, very funny beings sometimes, but that doesn't mean to say that we shove our emotions aside and don't deal with them, because that's part of our spiritual growth, is accepting the ego in all of its feelings and just loving on it, right? But just even to tell ourselves, especially when we're in the deep depths of grief or a situation or a breakup or something with the relationship, that this won't last forever. This is temporary. And that really helps calm too. I had planned a little class part of this. I'll just touch on a few things that, like I said, that I have in my that I had planned. But I guess the biggest thing to think about with our blocks and our pain is to know that these are a huge part of being human, and the blocks mostly come from our ego telling ourselves stories about ourselves or stories about what happened in the past. And these things linger, like I said before. Memories are just something somebody said to you, just comes up out of nowhere. The most important thing is to realize that that ego part of ourselves is not our enemy, though. And it's not a villain. It's not something coming to try to keep us down. Those are the pieces and parts of us that are just screaming for some love. What the ego really is screaming for is just to be loved into the submission of the higher self, of your own divinity. So today we're going to uncover these blocks. We're going to meet the ego's most charming disguises, because that's the way I see them, as the ego can sometimes be charming and thinks that it knows it all, right? So we've already covered a lot of energy blocks, what they are. We've identified some within each of you, but they can be emotional, they can be mental, they can be from our creative self, it can be ancestral or energetic. So, what about emotional residue and trauma? These can be unprocessed feelings from past experiences that we lodge within the energy field. Again, our body is our consciousness in physical form. And when we have something that we haven't dealt with, especially from childhood, because when you're especially under the age of 7 or under the age of 20, even, who knows how to soothe the self? I mean, who knows at those ages what's really going on inside? So we just take everything in, tell ourselves a story about it, and then it comes up later, now, as an adult, as a block. Especially grief, betrayal, abandonment, failure. They all live in specific chakras. Heartbreak in the heart, unworthiness in our sacral chakra, anger in the liver. Okay? But some blocks can also be caused by our belief systems and our programming. And these can be inherited or conditioned thoughts, like you may have told yourself a story about something that happened when you were younger. I have to be perfect to be spiritual or accepted in the eyes of God, right? I'm not worthy of divine connection. Many come from childhood, religion, or cultural conditioning. I never attain what I really want to attain. I'm not enough. See, I can never get out of debt. I just can't release abundance into my life. Those are all coming from, those deep belief systems and programmings and the stories. And then there can also be energetic cords and attachments, like these are ties to people or places or roles, roles, or identities that can drain our energy. Are often hidden in caregiving roles. Somebody talked about that before. Past relationships as a need to receive validation. Those are some of the disguises that the ego takes on to feel safe in its world. So, how can we really identify the ego? Well, we live with it every day. But the ego has some really subtle masks too that I want to make us all aware of. Um, like the martyr. I always have to give. I'm always giving. Is the overachiever. I have to do more because nobody else can do anything like I can do it. So I have to keep moving. I have to do more to be accepted and loved. The perfectionism comes out of that. And then we have the rescuer. It's my job to fix everybody. Yeah, time to resign. And then there's the imposter. I'm not as gifted or as intuitive as anybody else. But these roles are all illusions. They're comfort zones that we put ourselves into to but they do nothing but keep us small, right? But they're very convincing, and we have learned to live with them and by them. But like I said before, the ego isn't evil at all. It's just a little outdated in its stories. So maybe it's time for some new stories. And also, like I said earlier, the ego was given to us to keep us safe, right? Do we cross the street or not? The ego was given us to help us pay our bills, to walk through life as a human being. But yeah, in a lower state of awareness. So now we want to bring that ego up to a higher state of consciousness along with our souls. So the ego's voice often developed through our fears. It can act like everything's very urgent, or it can act out through comparing itself to others and also doubting the self. But I've come up with 10 common lies that the ego loves to tell us. One is, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. Fill in the blank. But when we realize that growth comes through action, not through a waiting for perfection. The second one is other people are more gifted. Like I said before, other people are more spiritual than I am. So the ego compares us to keep us disconnected from that inner power and our uniqueness and our self-expression. The third untruth that some of us might have is we have to heal everything within ourselves before we can help anyone else. But that's a classic delay tactic. I know in the medical intuitive mentoring program that I teach, some people, before they come into the program, say, well, I have to work on myself before I can heal anybody else. But it's, and I understand that. I understand that story, but we heal ourselves as we serve and share. Okay. And on that same note, the guides are saying right now, you realize not. Sorry, I giggle because they nudge me so strongly and they're so cute. You realize not the way that the effects that you have on other people just by being you, not by trying to control anything, anyone, any situation, just by being you in the fullness of your heart, in the caring and the compassion and the love that you have for the world. You people are picking up on your vibration, the light, the vibration of your light. You're bringing peace to people that have ruffled, anxious interiors. Your smile brings joy to someone in the grocery store as you walk by. Hmm? Just by you walking past a stranger, they feel your energy. So, see, you don't have to be anything, you don't have to do anything, you don't have to say anything. They're saying, just be you and appreciate. And they want you to really own this. This is why they're stressing it. They really want you to own this. Just the you that you are. And you might say, well, my frequency isn't high enough for people to feel. No, no. It is. You don't have to measure a frequency. You don't have to play songs that raise, of certain hertz levels, frequencies. You are just you, the divine that lives within and through you. You wouldn't, and you might say, well, I don't have the divine within me. It's like, what do you think? They're saying to you, what do you think made your heart to start beating? There's divinity within you. It's causing everything to work and keeping you alive. So just be and own that. Good. Okay. Lie number 4, you feel that if you speak your truth that you'll be rejected. Well, how many of us have experienced that? People disagreeing with us, or if we were full of expression as a child and we were pushed down because the ego fears abandonment. But your truth actually magnetizes the people to you that were meant to walk with you. Pretty much what they just said. Holding back your self-expression of giving your opinion or just being you or mm, opening yourself up to conversation where you may have been more of a wallflower. They're saying holding back your words is holding back a blessing that you're giving to other people because, like we just said, you're magnetizing people to you that are meant to walk with you. But if you're sitting back, not playing your violin in the orchestra of life, then you're withholding blessings. This makes sense. They want you to really own that. Line number 5, you think that you have to prove your worth. Whether through achievement, appearance, or people pleasing. And I think this has touched all of us, whether now or otherwise, especially those in a leadership position or as a healer or just every day. There might be this thread of perfectionism. I have to achieve, I have to look right, I have to please people, otherwise I won't be accepted and loved. Can also lead to your burnout, though. Line number 6, you'll fail, and that means something really bad. Because the ego links its identity to its outcomes. Mm. But the soul knows that failure is only feedback. Oh, tried this. Let's just try it again. Who was it? Edison tried a couple thousand times to invent the light bulb. He didn't see himself as failure. He just said, oh, that's just another way that didn't work. See, so this is what they want you to look at too in your afraid, in your fear about trying to do something you think you're going to fail. But again, if you just observe your life and allow yourself that beautiful self-expression of your lit soul, bless the world with you. Okay. Number 7 is if you rest, you'll fall behind. The ego loves to put forth that urgency. Come on. If you don't keep going, that world's going to fall apart. Remember we talked about you being the pillar before. If the pillar crumbles, then everybody around me, I don't know, maybe the world will end, right? So urgency was number 7. Number 8, your past defines you. Again, it's those stories that we've told ourselves, but are they true? Because when we've told ourselves stories from the past, that can lock us into shame and guilt, shuts down our self-expression and our evolution. But your soul knows the truth that you're allowed to begin again at any moment. And number 9 is this is huge. You need to be liked to be safe in the world. But the ego confuses external validation with internal safety. It's also part of human nature, though, is it not? To want to be liked. I really admire some people who say, what do I care what they think? It's like, that's always been one of my things is I grew up in a family of 7 kids and a mom and a dad. There were 9 of us, and it was like there was judgment all around me, right? So I grew up with, oh, other people are going to judge me if I say or do something. And so I had gone through a lot of my younger years in seeking that external validation until I went inside and until I started doing my work. And it's like, started slowly, like walking very softly through my calling. And it's like, oh, it is safe and no one is judging me. And that's okay. And now whether they judge me or not, when you find that home and you get to realize and own that you're enough, you are safe no matter. And like we talked about before, knowing that everything outside of us is just a mirror anyway, kind of softens all of that. And number 10, it's dangerous to be seen. This stems from old lifetimes or early life trauma. Being burned at the stake. How many of you identify with, the stories, the visionaries of the past? The Joan of Arc, the apostles who were stoned and imprisoned and, burned in oil and whatever. We all carry some of that collective, I think, that runs like a vein through all of us. But when we realize that our visibility can actually be our own healing, not a threat, we can do clearings of past lives. We can do clearings of those stories that play from the past. But the most important thing is to just love it into submission. Hey, no matter what happened in that past lifetime, no matter what energy you're taking on, it's all okay. I'm right here with you and we're safe because it's totally different here now. And you just keep talking to yourself. Be your biggest cheerleader, right?